Hi, Peter Charles here, Hooked to Life Fly Fishing. And if you've been looking at my active nymph series, you'll see that I started with an idea and then, worked its way through to see if it'll, actually work. One aspect of that active nymph series was the idea that mayflies, when they emerge, fill their bodies full of gas, pop up to the surface, but then they don't want to be there and they swim back down, and then they float back up and swim back down. Now, what happens to some of them is they become exhausted and they're stuck in the surface film. They're unable to break through. They no longer have the energy reserves to break through. And they just float with the current until they're picked up by a fish or eventually die. So I thought to myself, how about I look at extending my wet fly series and do a few videos on this idea of producing a type of nymph that will float or at least float with some aid of some floatant, but be right in the surface film and not sticking out through the surface film. We don't want that appearance. We want it to be just touching the surface, look like it can't get through, or be willing to float an inch or so underneath, because I'm sure sometimes these insects are a little bit below the surface as well. Also, it's a presentation that will be dead drifted, perhaps with a little bit of movement, but not much. Because don't forget, these insects will still be trying to struggle to get through the surface film, so they will move a little bit. And if they're just under the surface, they're not going to create much of a wake, if at all. Strike detection is going to be an issue. Designing the fly will be an issue. So I've got some test tank footage here. I'll just pop up, and you can see what type of presentation I'm looking for, how I want the fly to look. A fly that's hanging limply, suspended by its bubble in its thorax, and not able to do very much. So that's the attitude I'm looking for. I don't want one that's completely out of the water. As you can see, strike detection is going to be an issue because you won't be able to see this thing in the water. Or you might be able to see it when it's close, but odds are once you've cast it out, you won't be able to see it. So you're going to be setting the hook every time you see some kind of emergence rise where you think your fly might be. I think we're going to be stuck with that. But I think it might be a very interesting presentation because these insects are an easy meal for a fish. And, the bigger fish are probably going to go for the easy meals while the young ones are going after, the little ones are going after all the commotion of the hatch, and the big ones are sipping these cripples, these helpless ones. So I hope I get conditions allowing me to fish it and get some film of me fishing this and maybe get some fish caught on camera. The weather's been lousy as usual. The creeks are blown, so I'm hoping I'll be able to get something in the next week or so. But in this video, I'll just talk about the concept. The next one, I'm going to actually look at tying the fly and some of the design issues that I'm thinking about when I put it together, and then we'll get on the water and see how well we do with it. So stay tuned to the floating nymph in the wet fly series based on the active nymphing technique. So stay tuned. Cheers.